As you know, there are many types of cancer that can threaten our health and well-being. One of them is cervical cancer. As women and mothers, it's important that we understand cervical cancer so that we can protect not only ourselves but our daughters from the disease. So let's get down to the facts.
Cervical cancer affects the cervix, which is located at the lower end of the womb. Every woman is at high risk of cervical cancer, and it is particularly more frequent in women above the age of 30 years. The disease develops very slowly. When the women are diagnosed, it is often at an advanced stage. Then the outcome is very poor. Half of the women die from the disease.
So, cervical cancer is indeed a serious disease. Despite this fact, most people would rather believe that this disease couldn't happen to them or their loved ones. Imagine how they would feel when the unthinkable occurs.
After I was diagnosed with cervical cancer stage 2B in late 2004, my gynae tell me and explain how the treatment will be like. I remember my husband was there that day holding my hands, and he kept telling me about he also will be beside me. He also will fight cervical cancer with me.
It's terrible for any woman to endure cervical cancer, but it also affects all those who love her, her husband, her children, and even her own parents. They will all have to bear the sorrow and suffering that the disease can bring.
When my family first heard about my cervical cancer, my husband and my children was devastated. But after a while, they came into the fact that I had cervical cancer and it won't go anytime soon. They saw me struggling, and they provide me the support and help to beat the disease. Take it from me, prevention definitely better and cheaper than cure.
The ravages of cervical cancer are all too real to ignore. What can we do to prevent this terrible disease? Will screening help?
The Pap smear looks for precancers. These are early changes in the cervix which will become cervical cancer if they are not treated appropriately. Therefore, all women between the ages of 20 and 60 years are recommended to have the Pap smear every 3 years. Early detection of cervical cancer on the Pap smear will enable early treatment and offer a much better outcome. Treatment strategies in cervical cancer includes surgery, chemotherapy, and/or radiation.
So, it's important to get our Pap smears on a regular basis to prevent cervical cancer. But what actually causes cervical cancer? And what can we do about it?
Cervical cancer is caused by a virus called HPV, human papillomavirus. HPV is spread through sex, and it causes an infection of the cervix. The infection usually doesn't last very long because the body is able to fight it. However, if the infection doesn't go away, then it would cause the cells in the cervix to become pre-cancer cells. If the pre-cancer cells are not detected early and treated, then they can progress to become cervical cancer. And that's why it's very important for every woman to have regular Pap smears. HPV is so common that 50 to 80% of sexually active adults have acquired it. There are many types of HPV, but types 16 and 18 cause up to 70% of cervical cancer. HPV can also cause cancers of the vulva, vagina, penis, anus, and throat cancers.
Most of us would know that we now have vaccines that can prevent HPV infection. and by extension, help protect us from the risk of developing cervical cancer. So what else do we need to know about HPV vaccines?
HPV vaccines have been hailed as medical breakthroughs in the fight against cervical cancer. We have 2 vaccines and both are effective against cervical cancer, providing protection up to 85%. They have to be given in 3 separate doses.
The Ministry of Health is giving free HPV vaccination to all 13-year-old girls. I personally welcome this move to help protect our daughters. But some of us may wonder, why at such a young age? Also, if I were to miss out my jab at 13 years old, now how could I obtain HPV vaccination if I'm 16, 17 or 18?
The World Health Organization recommends HPV vaccination for all girls before they are exposed to the virus. And that is why the Ministry of Health has recommended that girls at 13 years old be vaccinated in their schools. For those who are not able to get the vaccine, they can get it for free at government hospitals or government health clinics. Older girls and adult women can get their HPV vaccination at private clinics and hospitals.
Finally, we arrive at the question of safety. As concerned parents, is there a cause for worry at all?
HPV vaccines are safe. They only contain the proteins that resemble the virus but not the viral DNA itself. Therefore, they will not cause the disease and thus there is no cause for concern.